Movie dopers. Here's an unexpected review because who here has not seen the first Iron Man? But this time it's me with what's your name?
Ali.
If you're interested in reviews for the Hawkeye series, go over to anchor.fm/. I love you 3000 reviews. But yeah, we're coming here to talk about Iron Man really quickly. Like all the episodes, there'll be a couple minutes of non-spoilers. We'll give our dopey reviews or dopey ratings. First time I came up with that. I'm kind of proud. I'm very tired. And then we'll go into full spoilers. Shocker. Holly, you want to start it off? What are your non-spoiler thoughts of this film that you said you've watched over 200 times? That's a direct quote. That's not a lie. I wouldn't make a joke.
The reason that this movie has a nice little soft spot in my heart is
you're
because
a diehard Goop fan.
And no, that would be
the video version of this is going to be on Patreon, and she gave me the closest thing to a serious death stare that I've seen yet.
It is. Honestly, I am a huge fan of origin stories. Oh, so okay. For practically every character, whether or not I feel the movie itself is like the best in the series, I just have this thing about origin stories and just sort of learning where they came from and how they came to be who they are. And for me, okay, yeah, Tony Stark, jerk, asshole, jerk, whatever. But because I know why, then I'll deal with the asshole, rich philanthropist, jerk.
Is this your favorite origin story in the MCU that you've seen? And if so, what are the other ones that you've seen? Because I know you haven't seen all of Shang-Chi, and you haven't seen all of the films.
I'll go and
would you like me to rattle off?
I do believe I'm gonna I am gonna go and watch that. Like I said, it's been rough and it's kind of difficult when 17 things are happening to sort of pay attention to a movie. But I believe that I'm going to like Shang-Chi. I believe I like one of his. Surprisingly, I really liked Doctor Strange. And I didn't expect that. I thought I was just gonna be like, okay, whatever. I actually really liked his origin story. And
so is this your favorite that you've seen in the MCU? Not including Shang-Chi, because you haven't finished that.
Right.
Is Iron Man 1 your favorite so far? And I can rattle off all of them if you need it.
Just rattle off all of them just real quick so the brain kind of.
All right. Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Thor, Captain America, the First Avenger, Guardians of the Galaxy, technically. Yeah. Doctor Strange, Shang-Chi, not Black Widow, Captain Marvel,
what else? Black
Panther. Well, yeah. I mean, it's technically after Captain America Civil War. I would consider Civil War to be kind of like how actually in Civil War, Spider-Man too. Spider-Man as well. They both had their not so much origin story, but backstory said,
right.
When T'Challa's messing with his ring, he's talking about his dad.
Right.
And then Spider-Man saying, when you have the power to stop bad things and you don't, those bad things happen because of you. So I wouldn't count Spider-Man Homecoming as an origin story necessarily.
Really?
Yeah, because he doesn't get bit. He doesn't go through his training. It's more like step 2 in his journey. And then Black Panther, I would say, is a Wakandan origin story, where not even origin story. just really explaining to us, introducing us. So it's an introduction story.
And see, that's actually interesting because for me, I would say that as far as Black Panther is, I would say that the movie itself we did get origin information, and then when his father passed, but then he still had to go through the ritual, go through the fight, go through the everything to still go through everything to actually be proven as to come out as a winner, to actually be king and be Black Panther. Once they took his powers from him, and it was like, okay, you got to fight big, tall, gorgeous, hot, amazing. Oh my god. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Only because I know we're over 2 minutes. I would say it's all origin adjacent. Like we get Killmonger's very beginning of the origin story. So if we go back to Spider-Man 1 with Sam Raimi, we get that would be the equivalent of Norman Osborn saying back to formula, and then not seeing when he becomes the Goblin, because Killmonger becomes the sexy glass of chocolate milk off screen.
I was actually talking about when he was fighting in M'Baku, because that's
I got you. This is how I would say it. It's kind of the difference between me saying, hello, my name is Brian, I love movies, and seeing me when I'm like 10 years old, every day going home from school, having no friends, and popping in the VHS of the first X-Men movie again, and me watching it 100 times. Me, not even joking. Me watching that VHS of X-Men 1 like every single day after school is the origin story. Me saying, hello, I love movies is my introduction. So for Black Panther, it's like, hello, this is Black Panther. Hello, these are the Dora Milaje. Hello, this is Nakia. Oh shit, this is Killmonger. Ah, we didn't see a tiny T'Challa, growing up.
And that's cool. And we can agree to disagree on that, because I still feel the way I feel.
It was definitely your introduction to him.
And I really liked, honestly, I really loved Iron Man.
Yeah.
I really loved Iron Man.
I'll say this. Interestingly, Thor seems to be both versions, because when we see Thor, he already has powers, but his origin story is being a humble Thor. So it's an emotional origin story as opposed to like training montage.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah, I like Thor. I like Thor. And in the first Captain America, I liked Captain America. Captain America didn't really snatch me until the Winter Soldier.
All right, so we've been going for way longer than 2 minutes. Is Iron Man 1 your favorite origin story, or would you say Black Panther, since you were defining it as an origin story, is your favorite?
I will say Iron Man.
Okay. All right, so now we're gonna get into the dopey ratings for this movie. Still non-spoiler. It's about to be spoiler in a second. I mean, not that it matters. Everybody knows. So if you want to see the rating system, just go into the description of the podcast. But after seeing the rating system, Holly, do you know your rating? Or I can go first if you want a second to skim over it again.
I know my rating.
What's your rating, Holly?
For me, I will say that I found it to be edible.
All right, nice. The only other one that has been rated edible so far is my rating for Free Guy. So if anybody's seen Free Guy, that's a barometer, I guess, to go by for this channel. For me, it's a joint which is one below edible, and the only reason being is because it's makes so much sense, or at least everybody agrees that the third act is kind of lacking. Where suddenly, you know, what is it? Obadiah Stane is like, all right, I've been behind the shadows this whole time. You know what? I'm just gonna come out and kill a bunch of federal agents and put on this big ass suit. And what do I do after that? I haven't thought of it. So that's a big enough flaw where it doesn't ruin my enjoyment watching it. Like I still have fun watching it, but it's a notch down for me. So like if they had nailed the third act and there wasn't that criticism, I would say it would be edible for me too. Cause edible, at least for me, is everything is working. There's no weak link. And the third act feels a little bit of a weak link.
Well, that's the difference between a viewer and a reviewer. I'm a viewer. You are a reviewer.
This is the first time she's ever seen the movie. She just saw it 10 minutes ago. Only 13 years late.
No. I just mean it, I just watch it. I'm like, I watch it. Am I happy?
I got to rename it I Love You 3000 Views. No one will understand. You were co-hosting at W3000 Reviews. No, every time you've seen this movie after the first time is a reviewing. Dad pun, dad joke. She died inside. I think this is the first time I've ever made Holly die inside a little bit with a dad joke.
I almost died outside.
Shocked it took this long. Anyway, that was the literally 2 minutes. Don't fact check that. Literally 2 minutes of no spoilers. Don't fact check that. Literally 2 minutes. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your phone. Don't look, including the 1 minute preamble from the ad. Don't look. Don't fact check that. There's no way for you to fact check it. The FBI is trying to fact check it. And Anchor is like, we're like Apple. No fact check. Now we're going into the spoiler review. You don't need to be told. This is Iron Man. If you're listening to this, you've seen it. If you haven't, tell me on Instagram at Movies Are Dope, because I want to find somebody who has not seen the first Iron Man. You got to be a unicorn. But that's it. If you haven't seen it, get off here and go to the Instagram and tell me. All right. Spoilers. First, before we get into all the spoilers, I want to say, see Charlie Bartlett. It has Robert Downey Jr. and his mom, or the woman who plays his mom in Civil War, in it. And it's a great film. And also watch the movie Tag, which has Jeremy Renner, the aforementioned Hawkeye. That's a great movie too. Oh, but Holly, what's
the movie? Is that Wonder Boys?
What?
That has Michael Douglas and Robert Downey Jr. and Tobey Maguire.
I don't know, but I've heard that Tobey Maguire is kind of a pill. Tobey Maguire. What's your first spoiler thought of this movie?
My first spoiler thought is I thought it was funny that they took a light-skinned man and replaced him with a dark-skinned man and thought that nobody would notice. I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. Forgot to mention this. Fuck Ike Perlmutter. Terrence Howard seems he's definitely
was this a talented thing for real? Was this like really? That's like what I heard at first. I originally had heard, the difficult thing that they like to pin on various people, and but then it was like, no, it's a money thing. So, do you think that? Do you think that's what it was for real?
This is all that I've heard. One, I'm gonna add another recommendation: Hustle and Flow with Terrence Howard as the lead with
he is good. But you want to talk about appeal? Oh, he's appeal.
Terrence Howard is?
Okay. Terrence Howard is
an
entire monthly prescription.
Let me answer your question. As far as I know, Terrence Howard was the first person cast in the film. He had a contract that said $1 million for his first appearance, $2 million for his second, $4 million for his third. His role was beefed up in this movie and then thinned down. And he, according to him, the last thing I ever heard of it, he said he helped Robert Downey Jr. get the part. He went to bat for his friend. And then after the first one came Ike Perlmutter, who is a very publicly known as a very racist and sexist person. He was the person who kept going against not wanting to do a Black Widow movie because Elektra didn't do well in theaters and Catwoman didn't do well in theaters. I wonder why.
Yeah. Never mind, they were shit movies. But anyway, moving on.
That I was gonna clarify that it wasn't because it was women in the forefront. He also replaced the Black Widow with Iron Man on the Black Widow bike from Iron Man from Avengers 2 for the merchandise. So why the fuck does Iron Man need to be on a motorcycle? Logic be damned. And apparently he told Terrence Howard, I haven't heard it from Terrence Howard like directly, but apparently he was like, we made a shit ton of money. Either you take a huge pay cut, like a couple $100,000, or we'll just replace you because with another black guy because no one will care. That's basically how it was through the grapevine. That's how it was. And he said he reached out to Robert Downey Jr. and didn't get a call back. And I heard rumors that like he was difficult on set, but what is it? There's also been speak that Will Ferrell and Jon Favreau, the director of this and Elf, they didn't get along on Elf, so it could have just been normal creative stuff. But you said that Terrence Howard was actually a pill. So what do you mean by that?
It's as far as sometimes you'll hear, say so and so is difficult, and then from that point it sort of limits them being able to get work on other projects. But this wasn't the case with him. He did work on a lot of different projects, but he was really something on a lot of pills, on a lot of projects. When have you heard that he's a pain in the ass? I would have to look up the different movies, but just on the show that he was just on,
Empire.
Yeah, that was like the latest that I heard, and I heard that from a number of actors that were on there.
I will say he backed Jesse Smollett or whatever his name is. I think a little too long. There's and I get being a little reserved about like losing faith in someone that you trust, hearing that they did something as horrible as faking a hate crime against them. But it was a little past the point where we had enough evidence, the world had enough evidence to be like, oh no. But I also trust Taraji P, and I've never heard her say anything negative about him, so that's why I was surprised that you had just mentioned it.
When it's sometimes it's not the main big person, and also barring this for like other actors and things, sometimes the story from like maybe the person that they starred with or whatever, that doesn't come out for a long time. So I don't know. Taraji and he may be just fine. I'm not sure, but I can't remember. It was some other actors. They weren't. It might have been like one of the sons or something like that.
Right,
That
well,
I had heard something.
Well, as far
But
as
anyway,
this,
just a number of things, and it's not even necessarily, they say difficult. Sometimes if a person has a thought on something or this is how it should be done, I know this character and they don't want to budge on it, that's enough to be deemed difficult.
Yeah, we were just talking, kind of casually talking about Shang-Chi beforehand, and you mentioning Simu Liu made me think of all the criticisms he had about Kim's convenience after the fact. And from his point of view, he was like, it was understood that as the series went on, we'd start taking more ownership of our characters and be able to have input, and we never got that. And now they decided to completely cancel it, even though it was still having record numbers, so that the white creators decided to cancel an Asian heavy series so that they could then focus only on the white led spin-off that they were choosing, when they could have easily just kept it going, taken the owners could have taken themselves out of the creative room and let the actors and the writers keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see what you mean by, like, the creators would definitely probably have said, Simulio is such a pain. Like, we are the creatives. He's an actor. He should act.
And that's kind of that's the thing. It's when they talk about writers' rooms and they say we need more diversity, blah blah blah. We need more. Okay, you could, if you have a writers' room and you put 17 Black people and Southeast Asian people and whatever, you could fill the room, but if they don't have the agency to actually voice things or point things out or make changes of things that could be seen as, I hate this word, quote unquote, problematic. If they don't have the agency to actually be able to do it, it doesn't really mean anything. It's all optics.
Yeah, as far as all I'll say is, if tomorrow I find out that Don Cheadle got paid $2 million for Iron Man 2 and $4 million for Iron Man 3, and it was truly down to Terrence Howard, like, just didn't gel well with everybody else, then I'd be like, that's a different story. But everything, ultimately, he could have been difficult, and Ike Perlmutter could have been just a racist, cheap piece of shit who just was an asshole. And even if Terrence Howard was difficult, I'd say for my money, I'd rather have had Terrence Howard stand his ground and not let Ike Perlmutter get that quote unquote, like, that racist victory in the short term. Although then now I'm thinking of how long, like, how Ike Perlmutter got ousted around the time of Avengers 2, and now Don Cheadle has like a coming Disney Plus show, and he's been in all of these other movies. And then it's like, oh, if Terrence Howard had taken the temporary L, he would have gotten the long-term W.
I love that. Nice.
But you never know.
Feige was so, when Feige had his little tantrum and went above his head. And it's like, look, it's him or me, because I can't do this. I can't do this.
Love it. That's the reason we got Black Panther.
Absolutely. And that was what I like, because it was like, okay, do you want to be on his side or do you want to be on the Disney side? And he said, put me on Disney, get me away from him. And then things began to open, and then he could say, this is the entire slate. This is the world we're creating. I just looked up. It says Don Cheadle got $1 million for Iron Man 2.
Good for him.
And it says
I like both of them as talents.
Howard was supposed to get $8 million
by 3
for Iron Man 2. No, it says he was supposed to get 8 for Iron Man 2. And I had heard that. I had heard it was like a high number. And they were kind of like, no, because Robert's getting some money. And
huh. All right, that's different than what I had heard previously. But either way, if I once I hear more about Terrence Howard as a person, I'll readjust how I think of him as a professional. Although I think ultimately Ike Perlmutter is the true asshole ultimate in this.
Oh, I don't. I do not disagree with that
right,
in the least.
So
Absolutely.
we jumped to the tragic irony of the line, next time, baby. So so let's talk about everybody else, or the alternate take, let's talk about the white people. Or Middle Eastern people. Because
I really no.
am I wrong in remembering that I think the only other African American person is in the post credit scene? Spoilers. Yeah, I started by just wanting to make a joke out of let's talk about the white people because I thought that'd sound funny. Now
well,
I'm kind of regretting it.
I think the thing that was so interesting about that movie, I remember when I said I'm gonna watch Iron Man, and I was like, because my brother was like, "You've got to see this movie."
It got 3.5 stars in the Red Eye magazine from Chicago. I remember.
Is that good? Is it 3.5 out of 5 or 4?
4.
Okay. Oh, okay. And I said, oh, okay, whatever. I don't really care. And my was like, no, you need to see this. And I really do like Robert Downey Jr. So, okay, made sense. Pieces fit. All right, whatever.
Sherlock 3 is coming.
Game of Shadows, the second one, is one of my all-time favorite movies. I watch it 1,000 times. I have it on every device. It is one of my favorite movies. 100%. Okay, anyway.
I did really like how they remixed the fight sequences with crack the scramble, or the you think you're the only one who can play this game, and all of that, even though it's in the spoiler section of this movie, is kind of not spoilers if you haven't seen it. So
yeah, huge Jared Harris fan here.
I don't know who that is.
Huh?
I don't know who that is. Jared Harris.
Jared Harris was Moriarty.
Oh,
okay. Yes, Richard Harris's son.
I don't know who that is, but
Richard Harris was the original Dumbledore in the first movie, and then unfortunately he became ill, and then he had to be replaced.
That's amazing. I didn't know that they were related, but fantastic story about that Dumbledore really quick. Apparently, his wife said that one day he disappeared for over 9 or 10 months. Just disappeared. And when he went, and you are very okay, you were very still. I didn't know if it was frozen. When he knocked on the door of his house, the first thing he said when she opened the door was, "Why didn't you pay the ransom?" Apparently, he was a real wild spirit. Which is a great line. I mean, if I did that, I wouldn't have a relationship to go home to. And from the tone of it, it didn't sound like he decided to go off on an orgy with people, without permission. But she did not know he wasn't gonna be coming home, And obviously, they were still together after it, or implied by how I'm telling the story. So this is just something that she knew about him as a free spirit. But that's a great
yeah. They say legendary Irish actor and notorious hellraiser.
Okay. Yeah, but This is, you know what? I've said, because I got the Kingsman tattoo and all this Kingsman shit around, I've said that I've liked watching Kingsman 2 a lot more because King, I get a little tired of watching the training sequence in Kingsman 1, which has like jumping out of parachutes and blah, blah, blah. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because this is a movie that I never got tired of watching the training sequence. Um, Maybe it's because he kept hurting himself. I didn't expect that. And
I like that.
because the sequence, or the quote unquote training sequences, the building sequences of the suit are like interspersed with other stuff, like him going to the fireman's gala or whatnot. So maybe that helped. But yeah, all I'm thinking of mentioning is how Gwyneth Paltrow didn't know she was in Spider-Man: Homecoming, which is not related to this film. But if anyone wants to go to Netflix and go on the Chef Show with Gwyneth Paltrow, pretty hilarious that she got paid for being in Spider-Man: Homecoming. She just didn't realize.
He was in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
At the end, when spoilers for Spider-Man: Homecoming, so skip forward for 2 minutes, but at the end when Iron Man is offering Spider-Man a place on the Avengers, and Spider-Man turns and shows him the Iron Spider suit, and Spider-Man turns him down and says he wants to be a little closer to the ground. He's like, that was a test, right? It's like, sure was. And then Happy and Tony are clearly like, that wasn't a fucking test, dude. Oh, he is mature. Oh, I'm proud of him. I'm actually proud of him. He didn't do it. And then they had a press conference ready. Gwyneth pops out and she's like, we're about to announce the surprise that he's gonna be about. He's like, you know what? He actually turned me down. She's like, what are we gonna? And she goes back and he's he I think he jokes to Happy. He's like, you got the ring? And Happy actually does. He's like, okay. I didn't know you actually have it in your fucking breast pocket. And he catches it, and then by the next movie they're engaged. So it's implied, it's not shown on screen, that, well, we can't announce we have a new member of the Avengers, so will you marry me? And obviously that seems like a one-day thing, if not a 1 hour thing for Gwyneth Paltrow to be like, hey, where is he? No? All right. Bye. Puffing on her big cigar. You know the way about, all right, I'll go back in. And apparently
just before she stepped back on to the Pirates of the Caribbean set, and obviously that's what it sounds like.
Are you talking about Zoe Saldana? Because Zoe.
No, I'm saying you were making her the way you were using her voice. She sounded like a pirate.
I was like, there is a female Avenger who was in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but she had more of a tan than Miss Goop. So apparently, from all the clues, the suit design was the same as in Infinity War, so they probably just, scheduling, just filmed that 1 day thing with her while filming Avengers Infinity War. And she honestly just didn't know, or, who cares? Her agent's like, another $500,000 for one, like, yeah, she'll love it. It'd be like, hey, we got this extra thing. If you work for like an hour, you'll get another 500,000. You'll be in a scene with Iron Man. So, I don't expect the owner of Goop to have watched 1 minute of the MCU, and all I really trust her to know is Robert Downey Jr.'s character's name and Jon Favreau's character's name, because she has to say the names in dialogue. If she didn't know that her character's name was Pepper Potts, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
She does know Phil Coulson's name, though.
Yes. Agent, yep. That's a good one. I like that.
I love him so much. I'm a huge Coulson fan.
Everyone should watch the movie Choke. It's directed and has Clark Gregg It's directed by Clark Gregg, and he is a supporting actor in it. Anyway, back to Avengers or Iron Man. I think my favorite part. Everything okay?
Yeah, you just said look at this movie, and I was like, oh, what's this movie about? And then I look and I see what the movie's about.
Which movie did I say?
Choke.
Oh yeah, it's adapted from a book by the same guy who wrote the book Fight Club, Chuck Palahniuk.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh, my favorite moment. There's two in this film.
Mm-hmm.
My second favorite is the moment when the when Jarvis is failing to take off his suit and Gwyneth comes in. It's not the joke. The joke is good. But when he like awkwardly looks over and is like, let's be honest, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing. Great joke. But what makes it my second favorite moment is her looking at him and just saying, "Are those bullet holes?" How she says it, what she says, it's so economical, small, but like when you see it, it just says so much. It's kind of like in What If when Killmonger says the difference between you and me is that you don't know that you can't see the difference between you and me. It says so much with so little. And then my favorite moment is the next scene they have together, which is her refusing to do espionage for him. And he tells her, I watched it like 2 weeks ago, so forgive me if I get it a little wrong, but he says, "You stood by my side while I profited from death and destruction, and now that I want to do something good, uh, you're saying no." And then he sits down and he's like, uh, he talks about how his life was changed in that cave when he saw young people killed at the hands of his weapons. And when I rewatched that after Endgame, it just it was eye opening. It was that one scene spelled out for me his whole journey throughout the entire MCU. And obviously it wasn't intended, or if it was, they didn't know that it would actually work as like the thesis for his whole arc and growth as a person. But whoo, him sitting there, just like, chef's kiss
I
for me.
think I I really like that because of everything he went through from the very start. Because the first when you say Iron Man and you go, okay, first movie, what's the first thing that pops in your mind?
I
The
am Iron Man.
first thing, no, the first image is when he's taking them out to show them how these bombs work. And so he's gonna he stands up there and he has his arms. And I think about that because that, that was such a different Tony. And then he went through so much trauma and everything that turned him around completely, that by the time you get to the end, and I mean, it was like he scrapped his entire being and became a whole new person, like, a different shell. And so that, I think that's just so interesting because that, to me, I always think about that image and how, even to the end of the movie, but how different that Tony Stark is to who he became. But that literally is like sort of the iconic, when you see different shots from movies or different things, I always see that image, even though that wasn't technically, he wasn't Iron Man at that point. He was still big jerk face, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, and that's why I like his. To me, all of them came through a lot of things, went through a lot of different things. But for me, his origin story was like unbelievable, from where he started to what made him into who he was, which evolved over a series of, it wasn't like just like this one movie happened and then that's it. This is Iron Man. Bing, we got it. He had to go through a lot of things with all of these other movies before, to me, this is me, before he actually became like the hero Iron Man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So two things in response to that. One, well, I hear what you're saying. I like it. Uh, One, I just realized that I said, this is kind of off topic. I realized that I said that the Incredible Hulk was an origin story. It's not. The origin story is in the credits. So if that was bugging anybody, not that anyone gives a shit.
I didn't see the one. My brother saw both of them, but the one with Edward Norton, that's the one he liked.
That's the Incredible Hulk. Anyway,
Mhm.
just want to throw that out in case it was bugging anyone for the last 30 minutes. Second, you might like this. The choice to have the attack on the convoy first, you know, the
Mhm.
vehicles coming out, and then dun dun dun. That was, I believe, a choice made in the editing bay. Originally, the whole film was going to be chronological, and then they decided to open up with that so that people would be more inclined to see him as a sympathetic character from the get, instead of seeing him be a big old jerk face, like you said, for 30 minutes and then get attacked. Which actually, speaking on blind spotting in the movie, we were talking about when we met on Twitter. Apparently, that was a very important thing that Rafael Casal said him and David worked on, is making sure that people were invested in Colin. And even though it started with him, getting out of jail, that by the end of the film, everyone was on his side. And he said that he was in a theater and it, like an old 60-year-old white couple, when the cop car does the U-turn and he accidentally, and I won't say anything else, but something's in his jacket because you need to see the movie. He heard the old white couple, like the woman turned, said they're gonna shoot him, and like they understood. like people that are not like Marnie, who's the hippie mom in the show.
Rainey.
Yeah,
Rainey.
Not that kind of old white person, but like the ones that wouldn't understand, the ones that would be like, well, if he did everything the cops said,
right,
he'd be
right.
fine. And like when that happened, when he was in the theater and that happened with that white couple, he was like, yes. I didn't know how to say that non-visually, but I was like,
yeah.
Oh. I almost like, he was like, yeah, we did it. Anyway, yeah.
I'm gonna, and I'm, this is just a quick comment I'm gonna make. We still, if we're not gonna review blind spotting, we need to have a blind spotting conversation at least.
Okay. I would also be down for saying the word blind spotting 100,000 times on a live stream.
1,000%.
What is it? Mr. Beast early on said PewDiePie 100,000 times. It took almost 48 hours. So, yeah, 48 hours. Say blind spotting. You could point me in the direction of some internet counter where you could just click and then it adds one. Blind spotting. Blind spotting. Blind spotting. I don't know if you can hear the me tapping really loudly on the podcast. But yeah, for context, anyone who has seen blind spotting, you said earlier I'm a reviewer. It's ayahuasca for me. I can't review. I hate that the Minute Podcast made me notice that a phone wasn't on speaker one time, because I'm like, oh, that's a production error. I found a flaw. Aw. It doesn't take away from the film, but I found something. But yeah, I'm down for a blind spotting conversation. Oh, my point was that it's so good. I don't, how do you review it? How do you review it? Or how could
you know what? I think when I say that, when I made the comment when I said you're a reviewer and I'm a viewer, I I think I was meaning it more from my perspective of just let's discuss it as opposed to let's take it, break it up.
Yeah, I know you mean something different. I was just trying to expound on the like you did say truthfully that I've had cold feet in terms of wanting to talk about blind spotting because really my thoughts can be summed up with, have you not seen Blind Spotting? Fucking go. Don't even watch the trailer. Buy it on Blu-ray. Buy it on iTunes. Buy it on Amazon Prime I did.
I actually say don't watch. The reason I wouldn't watch is because of the trailer. So don't watch the trailer.
The second time I saw it, the girl I was dating at the time had not seen the trailer, and the red light. She had a very different. She's like, don't. She had a different read on what could have happened. And I loved that. So don't even watch a trailer. I didn't even finish my sentence because that would have been like you watching the trailer. Anyway, we're on Iron Man 1. Should we wrap? I mean, this was nice. Would you like to wrap it up, or what else would you like to talk about? Want to talk about Samuel L. Jackson and the post-credit scene?
Oh, I love that. You know what? I really
you just had a look like we looked at the tall glass of chocolate milk for Killmonger, and somehow an even larger glass of chocolate milk was put next to it. Which, considering that Samuel Jackson has never been shirtless in these movies, at least he might have been shirtless in Winter Soldier when he's recovering, but he's never been nipple free.
No,
we've never freed the Sam L. Jackson nipple in the MCU. Let's say so. That's very impressive.
He is amazing because it's that attitude. He can have on a black turtleneck and a long black. I don't care. Wrap him up in a parka, scarf over his face. Doesn't matter.
Like he is in the first Kingsman movie. He's got a big fluffy coat with a nice little lisp.
I just really like his attitude. But I remember, and this is me not even having much knowledge regarding, the Avengers and all this stuff. So I'm really getting a lot of this secondhand information from my brother he's hyping me up. He's like, oh, and it's so cool. And I was like, okay. He's like, you gotta watch it. Now he didn't tell me what. He didn't tell me like why. He was like, just gotta watch it. You gotta watch the post credits. Well, okay, all right. And I see it. And then, well, first of all, just seeing him, that's enough. See Nick Fury, period. Walk in the room, you just kind of scream and faint. But then my brother, after that was like, okay, so now they can do blah, 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 blah. So then he was like talking about how things could form from that point on. Because honestly, a chick didn't know because I didn't know. No, I didn't mean that sounded sexist. I'm talking about myself.
What did you say that you didn't know?
No, I said a chick didn't know. Oh, okay. And I didn't mean saying that like a girl wouldn't know what that was. I was just referring to myself as a chick. But I just didn't know because it wasn't my bag.
What was I gonna say? There's a bunch of funny stories around Sam Jackson being in the Avengers. Do you know them? What do you know? I don't want to say well, I'm gonna have to say it anyway for anyone listening that hasn't known. But all right, I'll just get into it. So are you familiar with the Ultimate Comics or what that means?
Heard it, don't know what it means.
All right, so, and I'm not a huge comic book person either, but at a certain point, Marvel started releasing Ultimate Comics, which were comics just in an alternate universe. They could do whatever the hell they wanted. At one point, Reed Richards turned evil and killed Sue Storm. Peter Parker died. That's where Miles Morales was invented. Things like that. And in that universe, the same writer who wrote the first Civil War comic, he also wrote the comics Kick-Ass. He also wrote the Kingsman comics, Mark Miller. He did Ultimate Comics, did the Avengers. I'd actually suggest the Avengers 2, Ultimates 2. It's not called the Avengers in that universe, it's called the Ultimates.
Okay.
And he did this in Wanted. He cast Halle Berry as the character in the comic book, who ended up being Angelina Jolie in live action. And he doesn't ask permission to use their likeness. He's basically like, make it look like Halle Berry. Make the main guy look like Eminem in the Wanted comics. And in the Ultimate comics, he was like, make Nick Fury look like Samuel L. Jackson. And like even put it in dialogue. It's like, yeah, if a movie was ever made about us, I could only be played by Samuel L. Jackson. And Jackson apparently knows a lot of comics. Well, he definitely knows more than me. And he saw it and he was like, did we get permission about that? Can you call him up and be like they're even saying Samuel L. Jackson? Can you agent? Can we just check? And they were like, hey, so Sam was kind of like curious if there's any like room in these movies you want to make, since kind of looks like Nick Fury in the comics. And Kevin Feige was like, well, would he be interested in a cameo that could be more? And he literally signed. He was the first. He had the longest contract of anybody, or at least the first one to have a long contract. He had 9 film roles. And yeah, that's how it all started. They literally did a half day. They put his trailer, I think, in a soundstage that was connected to another soundstage with the set, and then drove him, or it was enclosed somewhere, and then they got him in the car.
They had to keep that
onto
secret.
The set, put him there, drove him back to the trailer, and was like, okay, bye. And then the next day it was in the trades that like, ooh, Sam Jackson's in the film, to the point where Jon Favreau, when they released the film, they did not have the post-credit scene in for the reviewers. Because he was pissed. He was like, fuck, we did so much. It's out there. Son of a bitch. So yeah, that's how he joined the circus. And now he's co-starring in Marvel's Secret Invasion on Disney Plus with Ben Mendelsohn. He's the co-star of that show. I think Monica Rambeau is joining.
When I saw a picture of him, I said, he didn't have that.
By the way,
love me some him.
Same director as Hustle and Flow, but Black Snake Moan with Samuel L. Jackson and Christina Ricci is quite the film.
I never saw it because I'd
recommend it.
I just saw scenes that made my skin itch.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird one. Definitely. But yeah. Anywho. That was Iron Man 1. Any closing words, Holly?
Watch it and love it.
That's your orders. And then come back in a bit for the weekly Hawkeye reviews, because that's starting soon. Christmas season.
I'm actually excited about that. That actually kind of honestly, that surprises me. I did not think I was going to be looking forward to that show like I am.
Yeah. And watch Tag. That's an underappreciated movie.
Oh, yeah, I want to see that. Yeah.
Bye, movie dopers.
Bye.
Come back for more underappreciated movies. Unlike this one, this one got all the appreciation it deserves, and probably a little bit more now that we have this whole big tapestry. But anyway, on that note, in 3, 2, 1, this movie
was
a joy.
edible.